Good morning, boys. Welcome to the next English literature lesson. The name of the lesson is The Milkman of India on page 91 of your textbooks. Now, as you can see in the picture in front of you, that is a picture of a milkman, and the milkman is obviously from India because of his uh, attire. We get to know that he is from India. Now, as the title of the story suggests, The Milkman of India. Do you really think we are going to study or learn about a milkman like that which is in front of you? About a milkman like this? Not really. We are going to learn of many milkmen or many milk farmers. The story will tell us the story of many such milk farmers, but the milkman of India about whom we are going to learn is not that milkman standing in front of you. It is a person called Dr. Vikas Kurian. Now, Dr. Vikas Kurian was a person who belonged to Kerala, and he has been named the Milkman of India. And why do you think he has been named the Milkman of India? He has been named the Milkman of India because he is responsible for turning India from a milk deficient country, that means a country which had very less milk, and at one time milk had to be bought from other countries. Milk had to be imported from other countries to supply to the people in the country. But today, due to the contribution of this man, Dr. Vikas Kurian, India has become the largest producer of milk in the world. His personality and commitment of turning the impossible into possible won him many awards. After a lifetime of struggle and conviction towards serving the nation, Dr. Vikas Kurian will always be remembered as the person who redefined the meaning of milk as a powerful tool for economic development. So, what did Vikas Kurian do that made him so famous? And he was called the Milkman of India. He was one of the first to begin a start-up company, you can say. You hear of a lot of start-up companies nowadays, but he was the one who started a startup company and has made it a big brand name with the participation of farmers. Okay, the company belongs to the farmers, all the milk farmers. Now that's very interesting. How did he do that? Now, what is that big company that he made and towards which India has become one of the world's largest milk producer, and he had become famous? Well, the company which we are talking about is, yes, Amul. Amul, which we are so familiar with. Every morning you need Amul butter on your bread. So, this is the company which Dr. Vikas Kurian worked to make it famous worldwide, not only in India but worldwide. Now, the story goes that long back, during the time of the British rule, the people the people who were milk farmers, like, they had no land, they were landless, okay, they were poor people, and the only thing they possessed was a cow or two cows. And how did they earn their living? They earned their living by selling milk. Now, at that time, as you know, the British were in India, and that was the time in the year 1943 to 46. Okay, and there was a particular shrewd and cunning businessman whose name was Pistonji, and he owned a company or owned a dairy called the Polson Dairy. And he got a legislation passed, that is, a law passed by the British government, which made it mandatory, that means compulsory, for all the milk farmers in Anand and adjoining villages to sell the milk only to the Polson Dairy. And what happened? They had to supply the milk to Mumbai. So sometimes they had to travel by their bikes, or they had to hire bikes, and sometimes this person would not even buy all the milk, so the milk would get wasted. And he bought the milk from the milk farmers at a very, very cheap rate, and he sold it to his customers at a much higher rate, earning a lot of profit. And this made the farm, this was really harassing the farmers, and they were exploited. So they were becoming poorer and poorer, and sometimes they had to even loan money from money lenders to buy a bike or to buy food for their cow, fodder for their cow, and they could not pay back the loans too, and sometimes they had to even lose their cows. So the farmers were in a very bad condition. So the farmers went to speak to a big and important leader called Dr. Vallabhbhai Patel, who is also called the Iron Man of India, who was responsible for unifying the entire country, India, under as one country. Okay, he was a very important leader. So Vallabhbhai Patel advised the farmers, saying that you have to start working as a cooperative. What is a cooperative? That is, all the farmers work in cooperation. Will they will have to decide not to sell the milk to Pistonji, to the Polson Dairy, and they should be able to collect all the milk from all the farmers and then process the milk in a place, and then they themselves sell it. So, in a dairy, there are three steps. First, they get the milk from somewhere, then they process it in the dairy, and then they sell it. So, Vallabhbhai Patel's advice to the farmers were, you have to do all these three together. You are only supplying milk to a dairy. Now, instead of only supplying milk, you have to get all the milk together in one place from all the farmers, and all of you work together. all of you become part of that, forming that cooperative, and then you start processing the milk, and then you start selling the milk. And he also gave them one old dilapidated dairy which was there in Anand. Okay, so now the question comes as to where was Anand? So on the map in front of you, you can see the place Anand. Now Anand is in Gujarat. It is a town in Gujarat. At that time it was smaller and it was a village, and Vallabhbhai Patel told all the farmers that the milk farmers in Anand and the adjoining villages start coming together to form a cooperative where all the farmers will hand the milk to together and collect the milk together, and then they will process it and they will sell it. So there will be no middleman. Middleman means like Pestonji was the middleman. He would buy the milk from the farmers. He was the middleman, and then he would sell it to the customers. So there was no requirement of a middleman. So the farmers can get their due money and they will not be cheated by the middleman. So as we said, Anand is in Gujarat. Now let us read the story of Dr. Vikas Kurian, okay, and how he started the how he got involved in this whole plan of the farmers cooperative, and how he helped them, and then he made such a big brand, okay, like Amul. Okay, so Dr. Vikas Kurian, now you look at your textbooks on page 91. The year was 1946, and a young graduate from Gundi College of Engineering in Madras, now Chennai, applied for a government scholarship to study metallurgy and nuclear physics abroad. So, he actually never wanted to work in a dairy. His interests were metallurgy and nuclear physics. And for that, he applied for a scholarship to study abroad. Okay. So, when he went to apply for a scholarship, he had to face an interview. And in the interview, the interviewer asked him, "What do you know about pasteurization?" So, Dr. Kurian said, "Something to do with milk," was the young man's uninterested response. "Yes, you're right. And you've been selected for a scholarship to study dairy engineering," said the interviewer. So, he applied for metallurgy excuse me, and nuclear physics, but he did not get that subject and he was given dairy engineering instead. Now, who was this young man? Was Vikas Kurian. He was initially disappointed because he had no interest in dairy engineering. Nevertheless, he left for United States in 1946 to study at the Michigan State University. At the university, he was happy that he got mechanical engineering as the main subject, with dairy engineering as a minor subject. After studying in the US, Kurian came back to India in 1948, and by that time, India had become free. He was asked to join as the dairy engineer in the government research creamery at Anand. Creamery is a dairy. Okay, you can see the meaning there. Now, Anand, a village in the Kiara district of Gujarat. Anand was a village at that time. Now it's a town in the Kiara district of Gujarat in return for the scholarship paid by the government. Now, what happens when you take a scholarship from the government? You have to work for the government, as you have to sign a bond. It's like you are repaying the money you have taken from the government for studying. So you have to work for the government, even if you are posted in a very small village. But Dr. Kurian was not happy, and he landed in Anand on the 13th of May 1949. However, he couldn't find a suitable accommodation in Anand and had to settle for the garage of the dairy. It was a dilapidated. What's the meaning of dilapidated? Absolutely run down and shabby, means in a very bad condition. Small room. And Kurian repaired it on his own. He made windows in the walls and a bathroom with iron sheets. So what does this say about Dr. Kurian? That he was a very creative and innovative person. In Anand, Kurian found a clever businessman about whom I told you, Pistonji, Edulji, owner of Polson Dairy, and was fooling the farmers. So there he realized that this person was fooling the farmers. Pistonji was selling products at higher prices and paying the farmers less for their produce. Vikas Kurian was touched by the plight of the farmers. So he felt very, very bad for the farmers. Inspired by Tribhuban Das Patel, the leader of the farmers. This Tribhuban Das Patel was actually not a leader of the farmers, though here it's written as leader. He was a political leader under the leadership of Vallabhbhai Patel, who had sent Tribhuban Das Patel to help the farmers begin a cooperative. Okay, so he was the one who helped all the people to begin farmers to begin a cooperative. Kurian gave ideas about helping farmers form their own milk cooperative. He even helped them in the selection of machinery. Now, here comes in the expertise of Dr. Kurian. Since he had studied dairy engineering, he knew what were the machinery required for setting up a dairy. So he was his help at this time was very, very important for the farmers. However, unhappy with his job, Kurian wanted to get out of Anand as quickly as possible. He was in Anand, so he was helping them, but he did not like to stay there. By the end of 1949, he was all set and eager to pack off to Mumbai. But that did not happen. Okay? God had some other plans for Dr. Kurian. Tribhuban Das Patel requested Kurian to stay back. His simple plea was, we need you here, because they really needed some person who was technically sound in running a dairy, and Dr. Kurian was the best person. Kurian accepted Tribhuban Das Patel's suggestion and joined the Kaira, that cooperative formed by the government, by the farmers was called Kaira Cooperative, as their general manager in 1950. He never regretted that decision. Then began the dream of setting a dairy, okay? And that is the Amul Dairy as it stands today, okay? So Kurian accepted and he never regretted that decision. Vikas Kurian worked with simple vision to help farmers so that they could control their resources and not be exploited by middlemen. I've already told you who are middlemen. On 15th November 1954, the first president of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, laid the foundation for the dairy plant at Anand, the world's first plant to manufacture milk powder from buffalo milk. So, Dr. Kurian was the first person to manufacture milk powder from buffalo milk. Now, that is a very interesting fact. Before this, milk powder was always made from cow's milk, and no one believed that this could be possible. But Dr. Vikas Kurian always did what was impossible, and this he made it happen. So began the manufacture of milk powder from buffalo milk. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru inaugurated this plant in October 1955. The Kiara Cooperative now needed to focus on proper advertising and branding. So, whenever there is a company, as you know, you need to advertise. Otherwise, how will people know? And you need to have a proper brand. And who will know better about brands than y'all? Okay? So, the more famous the brands, the more people want to buy it. Okay? So, now to give a brand name and to think about its advertising. A chemist at the Kiara laboratory suggested the name Amul, which is derived from the Sanskrit word amulya, meaning priceless. It also stands as an acronym of Anand Milk Union Limited. Okay, so Amul also stands for the acronym Anand Milk Union Limited, and it comes from the word amulya. And the name Amul was formally registered in 1957. Amul grew from strength to strength thanks to the inspired leadership of Tribhuban Das Patel, the founder chairman, and the committed professionalism of Dr. Vikas Kurian. The Amul pattern established itself as an ideal model for rural development, and it played an essential role in the lives of women farmers, making them economically independent. So, the way Amul began, it became a model for development of rural development, means the development of the villages. This was in a village, and this village people in the village became economically, especially the women, became economically very strong due to this pattern of Amul. And what was the pattern of Amul? Where all the people uh, came together and formed a cooperative. And what was Dr. Varghes's ideology when he thought and worked for this brand? It was value for money and value for many. What does that mean? Value for money and value for many. That means so many people are getting involved in the company Amul. Okay, all the farmers are shareholders. Actually, the company is the largest rural employment provider. That means this company is a company which gives employment, largest number of employment in the rural area, that means in the village area. Okay, and so it is making all these people very economically self-sufficient. So many people are being benefited, and value for money means so many people are bringing in the milk, and that milk is being processed and it is being delivered. For that, when so much of milk is coming together and the cost, they are being able to give their customers the milk at a very not at a very high rate. Okay, their cost is very economical. If you go and buy an Amul ice cream, it is much, much cheaper than your Baskin Robbins and other branded ice creams. Okay, so they are cost efficient. So that was the way Dr. Varghese worked. In 1964, when the then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri visited Amul in Anand, he was impressed. So he was impressed. So you can see in front of you the picture of Lal Bahadur Shastri, and he was impressed. This is in 1964. Okay. So visited Amul in Anand. He was impressed by the way Amul was sourcing milk, that means getting milk from farmers and helping them improve their economic condition. Lal Bahadur Shastri also asked Dr. Kurian to replicate the Amul model across the country. Now, Lal Bahadur Shastri was very impressed and looking at how the farmers were being benefited and how they were growing economically. He wanted Dr. Kurian to help the entire country have similar sort of models like Amul across the country. The team worked out that the government would need to give around 650 crore rupees for this initiative. But this did not work because they worked out the money needed to have this same Amul model across the country would be 650 crores. The other states, they did not want to spend so much money, so this was immediately rejected. This plan was immediately rejected. Even though the Amul brand was registered, Dr. Vikas Kurian now wanted to be sure that there was an advertising agency to promote the brand. In 1966, Sylvester da Cunha of advertising and sales promotion was entrusted with the task of creating an advertisement. So, we know that how Dr. Varghese thought ahead of his times. The company was registered, but he was keen on having a advertisement and sales promotion so that the company's sales becomes even more and the sale will increase, so will the profit of the company increase. So came the advertisement of Amul with the Amul girl, with whom all of us are very much acquainted. You can see on the picture the Amul girl and their tagline. He and his wife came up with the tagline. What is a tagline? It is a line which is used as for advertisements or things, so that it catches other people's attention. So what was that tagline? Utterly butterly delicious Amul. So you've heard this so many times, but I doubt very few of you must be knowing the actual story behind this utterly butterly Amul and the story of Amul. Even though the word butterly seems doubtful, because butterly is not it's a grammatically incorrect word, but it was rhyming because it was ungrammatical. It worked for the brand. the country saw the birth of a campaign that continues to charm all till date. So, this advertisement brand began in 1966, and this girl is still advertising for Amul, and for every occasion Amul has an advertisement of the Amul products with the Amul girl. Yes. So you can so even today you can see the different advertisements Amul keeps on putting up with different things which are happening in the country. That's the way to go, girl. Amul always gold. So see, that's an advertisement which is something of a very recent. This is when Hima Das won so many gold medals. I'm sure you've heard of Hima Das. Then this is when there was flood in Kerala. God, please help your own country. Why Kerala is called God's own country? Help with your relief and belief. See, again, Amul is advertising. This happened, very recent one. Exit the Dragon, Amul made in India. This is when? This is just after the I think this was just after the Chinese, I think this was just after the coronavirus which began. Okay. So you can see that Amul is still advertising with this Amul girl whenever required. So, when the first few ads appeared in Bombay, now Mumbai, everyone found the ads very cute. The advertisement was a winner. The Amul girl, with her clever catchphrase, yes, and her love for butter, is one of the most famous mascots Indian advertising has seen. Mascots, symbol. You can see there in the meaning. Around the year 1968, there was a surplus production of milk in the European countries. So much so that they had no clue what to do with the surplus milk. Dr. Kurian realized that there was an opportunity. That year, at the World Food Program, Dr. Kurian pleaded the countries to donate this surplus milk to India. Dr. Kurian stressed that he would sell the milk at the regular price in India and use the earnings to repeat the Amul model throughout the country. Impressed by Kurian's plans, they agreed to this proposal and called an Operation Flood. So that was called the Operation Flood. Page 93, please underline. They agreed to this proposal and Operation Flood, or the White Revolution, was born. For the first time, an institute of national importance was established in a village and not in a capital city. Dr. Vikas Kurian, the person behind this movement, empowered milk farmers in what once milk deficit India through systems designed by him. So you can see all the farmers are coming to give milk. India became the world's largest producer. All the milk is being collected. See, milk procurement center. They are coming and they are dropping the milk. And then helped India to become the largest producer of milk, surpassing even the US. The cooperative became a model not only for India but for developing countries throughout the world. What started as a cooperative society today helps farmers of an area in what started as a cooperative society to help farmers of an area is today a $1 billion company. Okay. The father of white revolution passed away. Now you can see all the work being done in the Amul Dairy. How the work is done. This is the inside of the dairy and how they are working. You can see this is the assembly line. This I've shown you. See, these are the plants of the Amul. There, this is your, this is the Amul plant. So, the father of white revolution passed away on 9 September 2012 after a brief illness. The Amul girl wept first time to pay homage to the great man. So you can see this was the homage paid by the Amul girl, okay, after the death of Dr. Kurian. Dr. Kurian's determination of turning the impossible into possible won him many awards, such as the Ramon Magsaysay Award for Community Leadership in 1963, Padma Shri 1967, Padma Bhushan 1966, World Food Prize Award 1989, International Person of the Year Award 1993, and Padma Vibhushan 1999. However, the best award that people of the country gave him was the title Milkman of India. Okay, so this was a person of who was so innovative and so creative, and how he worked to help millions of milk farmers. So, for seeing a revolution in a drop of milk, for changing the lives of over 15 million farmers, for making India the largest milk producer in the world, for waking up the nation every morning to the taste of India, for inspiring India's best loved brand, Amul. So, this is the man who was responsible for all this, and this chapter is about this person. Now, he was a great leader with a great philosophy and with great thinking. So, with this, we come to the end of the chapter, but you need to read the chapter quite a few times, okay? And then we will go on to the written work.